All right. So, before we begin, I will introduce who we are and who's speaking to you today. So my name is Indigo. I use she, her pronouns. And I am an alumni from CityLAB Semester in Residence. I did semester in residence this year in fall semester, and I'm one of the two CityLAB ambassadors for this year, along with David Landry. But I'll let him introduce himself now if he'd like
So Indigo and I have very similar resumes, but I was also one of the member of the 2024 cohort last fall from September to December. I'm one of the ambassadors today, speaking with you with Indigo. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm happy to be here talking to you today.
Lovely. We're also really lucky today to be joined by Randy K himself, who's one of the semester in residence instructors for the CityLAB portion of the class of the program. So you'll get to hear from him maybe a little bit during the Q&A session. At the end, he'll be able to answer any questions that we have as well. Randy, I don't know if you want to give a thumbs up or introduce yourself as well, but there he is. All right, so we will continue on. So for today's general agenda, for the presentation aspect, we're going to be giving you lots of information. We'll start with an intro to CityLAB and a little overview of what semester in residence is like. Then we'll go over course structure and the grading a little bit. And then we'll talk through the application process and some of the logistics involved there. We'll go through a few past projects, things that have been worked on in the past in CityLAB semester in residence. And then for the end, we're going to have a little discussion about student experience. We're very lucky to be joined by another CityLAB alumnus from 2023, Oyin, and she'll introduce herself later. Um, but that's an opportunity for you guys to have any questions you want. You can either put them in the chat or the Q&A feature. If they come to you during the presentation, feel free to stash them there and we'll come back to them at the end. Before we start, uh, as people who are working and living in the city of Hamilton, especially on the things that we're working on, especially in CityLAB, where we're working with things that have to do with the municipality, it's really important that we understand um, the historical and contemporary like history of the land that we're on. So we'll do a little land acknowledgement here to start us off. So the city of Hamilton is situated on the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga people. Their land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. Highly recommend doing some of your own research on this covenant. It has such a deep, rich history and continues to be an important agreement. And so a little more information about that. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt is an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This includes taking only what we need and ensuring that we leave enough in the dish for others. Um, and this land is also covered by the Between the Lakes Purchase of 1792, which occurred between the Crown and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. So with that, I will pass it off to David. He can start us off.
All right, thank you, Indigo. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Awesome.
you're great.
So what is CityLab Hamilton exactly? So CityLab Hamilton exists independently from McMaster University and from the municipality of the city of Hamilton, essentially. So CityLab Hamilton is essentially an innovation hub that brings together the three higher education institutions in Hamilton, so Mohawk, Redeemer, and McMaster, with the city of Hamilton, so that academics and students, as well as municipal staff and other leaders, can work together on projects that are designed to improve Hamilton for all of its residents. The vision of CityLab Hamilton is to support that mission to provoke students and city leadership to inspire, energize, and build a healthy, sustainable, and vibrant Hamilton. And how we do that is through those civic engagement projects that are designed to improve the situation for everybody in Hamilton. So you'll see down here we have some numbers that since 2017, 1,400 students from Mohawk, 251 from Redeemer, and 1,200 from McMaster. Those are students who have worked on projects affiliated with CityLab. So These can be projects taken through different courses, like courses in the Environment and Society department at McMaster that have a project component that is affiliated with CityLAB Hamilton. And then on the far right column there, we have the semester in residence, which is what Indigo and I did, as well as Oyin, where you spend the full semester working on a large project in partnership with CityLAB Hamilton and the City of Hamilton itself. So, what is the the semester in residence experience? So, the semester in residence is affiliated with CityLAB Hamilton, and it's done in partnership with McMaster University and Redeemer University. You essentially spend 4 months, so from the beginning of September until mid-December, studying and doing work in downtown Hamilton at CityLAB's downtown location, which is 58 Jackson Street West. The core idea of the program is to connect students with civic leaders, municipal staff, and other key partners in developing large-scale projects that end up having an impact on the city of Hamilton. So for example, Indigo and I will talk about this a bit more later, worked on the project with the city to create new ideas for the Open Streets program. So the Open Streets program is run by the municipality where a few times per summer, major arteries are closed and made available to active transportation. So for example, cycling or walking, just to transform perspectives on the way we use space in the city. So a larger scale project like that, we took an aspect of that larger program, which was finding new routes for Open Streets Hamilton, and that's what we worked on for a large period of time through our experience in the semester in residence. The semester in residence counts for 5 courses, so it's 15 units, and you're usually there from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. And now that 7-hour block can change depending on what you're doing. You might spend the afternoon working on your large-scale project with your team of 4 or 5 people, or you might be in instructional lectures for most of the day, depending on which day of the week it is. And it's a really dynamic program, and not a single day is the same as the other. Some frequently asked questions that we received in the past. Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion as to what it means to be in residence. So you're not actually in a dorm, you're not in a residence building. It's more like you're a scholar in residence at the CityLAB building in downtown Hamilton. So you're there for 1 full semester, you are learning with CityLAB instructors, you are working with the City of Hamilton. It's really a completely different experience from what you might expect at a normal lecture on McMaster's campus. The other question is CityLAB SIR offered in winter or spring or summer terms? It is not offered at all in the winter. It is only a fall term program. There is no 15-unit CityLAB program across the spring or the summer, but we did recently add a 6-unit course that spans the majority of May, which is a condensed CityLAB experience.
Sorry, I was muted. A little bit more about CityLAB, what the day-to-day looks like, what your actual experience would be like once you apply and are accepted into the program. So it's a little bit confusing to know from the outside what it will look like, just because it's one big thing for the entire semester, but it is broken down into separate parts. So you can kind of think of it as having 2 main sections, the first being kind of lecture and class content. And there are kind of 4 different classes that make up the CityLAB experience. Now, it's kind of unhelpful to think of these as separate courses. They really impact each other and are flexible and bleed into each other throughout the semester. But these 4 classes are dialogue, design, project management, and city building. You can see all of the instructors there. Today we're being joined by Randy Kay, who runs the city building aspect. So I'll tell you a little bit more about how these courses are fit into your week. But the second and major part of the CityLAB experience is the actual project work that you're working on with your group. So a few weeks into the CityLAB experience, you'll be placed with a specific project that you're going to work on for the rest of the semester. in your little groups. And each group has a specific community partner or city staff partner that they work with over the course of the semester. Um, so this can be, yeah, either a community partner or City of Hamilton staff. So. Um, this is the other thing that people are often confused about when they apply to CityLab is since it's an entire semester, it's 15 units worth of courses. It can be kind of weird to have to enroll on my timetable or Mosaic, since we couldn't actually make it into a 15-unit single course enrollment. So it's been broken up into two separate courses that once you're accepted into the program, you'd simply enroll for both of these courses. There's the 4A06, which is the design and dialogue inquiry, and then there's the applied project experience one, which is the 4A09. So you have to take both of these courses. You can think of these two courses together as being the equivalent of enrolling for CityLab on Mosaic. We're going to talk a little bit more about overloading later, and I know there's a few questions about that for some people who registered today. But it is the equivalent of a full course load. So it's not recommended that you overload and take other courses on the side, especially since you're going to be physically downtown every day. But it is possible, and some people do it. We just recommend that you speak to your academic advisor before to see how it would work and how it would fit in for you. Okay, so we're going to move into a little bit talking about what the actual courses are like. I'm really excited that I get to talk about the dialogue course. So many interesting things to be learned here. So some of the topics that are covered in this class are things like interpersonal skills, self-awareness, critical reflexivity, relationship management, cultural humility, collaboration, conflict resolution, that's a big one, dialogue facilitation, and verbal communication. I know that sounds like a lot. And also some of them sound like kind of benign skills. You're like, I already know how to talk and to have dialogue. But they're actually really useful in any kind of community engagement, community planning. As David will speak about, we every group has to deliver a dialogue event. So learning how to do a good facilitation, how to be culturally reflexive, and how to really organize a real dialogue that is really constructive and valuable. You learn all that stuff in dialogue class. So some other learning outcomes for this include displaying capacities to achieve effective, deliberative dialogue, um, between and within municipal governments, organizations, community groups, and citizens, and also to develop a greater awareness and understanding of community engagement practices and critical reflexivity. The one other thing that I did want to note in this section um, is that it can seem a little bit like this is tailored more towards the arts or that it might not be, accessible for people in different programs, different faculties with different backgrounds. But as somebody who's been through the program, um, there is tons of room for absolutely everyone with any academic background to learn so much and so many important skills through all of these classes. We had people in our cohort from engineering, life sci, health sci, visual arts, psychology. No matter your interdisciplinary background, there's definitely something that you can learn in these classes, and everyone takes something different away. Pass it off to David here.
Yeah, so here's just a few photos of us engaging in these dialogue events. Um, One of the most important aspects of the dialogue event is really um, understanding your position as the researcher um, in juxtaposition to the people you're speaking to and the people from Hamilton who want to contribute to their city. Um, one of the main goals of the dialogue event, at least in the way that I saw it, was that um, it was the ideal vessel through which we could gather what the community actually saw through the projects that we were assigned. How did they respond to the projects? Now, since these projects are municipal, they're funded by Hamilton taxpayers, and so really engaging with these community members was key to our success. So one of the other classes that we have in the semester in residence is the design class. So some of the key aspects of the design class include understanding and addressing assumptions in complex problems. So One of my main takeaways from the design class was really taking a complex problem and stretching it out and breaking it down into different segments and seeing how those different segments were problems unto themselves, solving them individually in working towards the goal of solving the larger problem through each of the different components. Another aspect, brainstorming to challenge barriers and develop solutions to problems. So once again, this is another act of, I found, of breaking down large complex problems and targeting different ideas that could deal with that larger problem. Comparing potential solutions and who will be impacted. So similar to what I was saying about the dialogue events, that plays into design. You'll find if you end up and taking the semester in residence, a lot of the aspects of each of these courses play into each other. So looking at design and who will be impacted, that's important in the dialogue events as well, where you're trying to figure out who is going to be impacted in what ways, positively, negatively, by these variety of projects. And some more specific assignments that we worked on, building persona profile and user journey maps. So these are specific aspects of work in design that we learned through the semester in residence that can help you better understand the actors and the players who are impacted, who are involved with your project. So the main learning outcome was to apply design thinking and research methods to examine a topic of focus from an end user perspective. So you're really looking at how does this project impact the people it's targeting, the people it may not be targeting, but unintentionally has an impact on as well, and trying to cover as much of that ground as possible in your pre-implementation thinking, let's say. Another course that we had was the project management courses. So now we're up to 3 different courses. So dialogue, design, and now we're at project management. So project management, similar to its title, it's really about managing these larger projects that we do in the semester in residence from point A to point B, as well as from point A to point Z. So really making sure that we understand the whole scope of what we're doing. So topic number 1 there, project scoping and developing a work plan. How can we look at this project from a zoomed out perspective perhaps, and break it down into different segments so that we can manage it appropriately across the 12 or 13 weeks that we have in the semester in residence to make sure that the work is completed appropriately. Stakeholder mapping and relationship building. So once again, this ties into design, this ties into the dialogue. It's making sure we know who's involved in the project, who's being impacted by the project, and who can potentially help us carry out this project. Intentional research and feedback collection. Another aspect of project management is making sure you know your position as a researcher, just like what I was saying about the dialogue events. Making sure your questions are specific, making sure that when you get your feedback, you manage it correctly to make sure it helps your project in the best way possible. And then solution generation and collaborative engagement. That is all about making sure that your project comes up with some kind of a solution, even if it isn't necessarily a cut and dry answer to the problem you're trying to solve. So at the end of this course, you're looking to display a range of skills required for effective project management, including strong communication, strong research skills, and strong teamwork and conflict resolution skills. You are working with the same team for about 3 months in CityLAB, and managing that project and managing teamwork are essential to every SIR student's success. I'll hand it
I
over
do
to
this
you,
every
Sarah.
time. I start talking while I'm still muted. So for the fourth and final class, last but not least, we have city building. This one is a little bit difficult to wrap your mind around if you've just been in very classic traditional classrooms throughout your education, throughout your university degree. But city building is a section of the week run by Randy Kay, who's the instructor who's with us today, where we get to explore the city and really build a connection to the place where we're doing our working and our learning. This can include some weeks we have guest speakers, people like city councilors, local activists, business owners will come in and we'll give really interesting um, talks to our class. But often this also looks like venturing out into the city, exploring and doing these kind of field trips, which I found, especially for a program like CityLab, were really helpful also for us to bond as a class. You can see photos here of us on the bus on the HSR and us hiking Tiffany Falls. Some other things that we've done are tour of Dundurn Castle and talking about Hamilton's monument trees. So looking at a bunch of the old trees in Hamilton, visiting. There's a really awesome cemetery walk that we do. We explore downtown revitalization through the successes and failures of Jackson Square. This was one of my favorite city building classes. We had to learn about the history and the urban planning of downtown Hamilton, which is just fascinating. We attend city council meetings. In our semester, we also attended um, a lot of police service board meetings. We talked a lot about that. And visiting Pier 8 and the Art Gallery of Hamilton. The list goes on and on. It happens every single week as part of the program. And one of the things that I really appreciated about city building is, at least in my experience, and I think this runs true for a lot of McMaster and Redeemer students, is that it's really easy to get stuck in the campus bubble and not really explore downtown. Until I attended City Lab in my third year, I barely went downtown, and now I'm downtown all the time. So it's lovely to really get to explore and to kind of know the city well. The other thing that I like noting about city building is it's a really unique course where the students in City Lab and your cohort kind of gets to do some co-creation of the course along with Randy. Um, so if there's something that the class really wants to do, it's super easy to propose something and talk it through with Randy to make that happen. And so if I move forward one slide. You can see here's some other fun kind of experiences and pictures that we wanted to share with you guys. In the bottom right, you can see there's our cohort from fall semester. That was us at the final showcase, which is kind of the celebration at the end of the semester where you get to share our work, share our posters, and do little presentations of everything that we accomplished. Just above that, you can see a picture of some City Lab students out for lunch. Um, on the lunch break every day, we liked to venture out into the city in small changing groups every day. We knew every local and cheap place to eat within the 10-minute walk of the City Lab building. I personally fell in love with going to the farmers market, which is right downtown. They have such incredible food, great coffee you can get there. Um, on the top left, we also see some students who are working on a passion project of theirs, which we'll also talk about a little bit more later. This is them potting plants for the City Lab space. We ended up organizing an impromptu, or they did, their project, um, day over lunch where we painted all the pots. And that was a really awesome project. And right in the middle there, you can see one of our city building days. We visited the Central Hamilton Public Library makerspace. And a few small group in the class, including David and I, ended up kind of writing and recording an impromptu song for our class that ended up being something of a theme song for our year, for our semester. So things like this are happening at City Lab all the time. It's really fun for people to bring their own things to the program, bring their own interests, and there's lots of space for people to kind of explore and share in those things, which is really wonderful. As much as you learn so many incredible professional skills, it's also a really fun and great time. A great way to meet lots of other people with similar interests to you. So, it's actually a great time for us to move into telling you what, in general, a week in the life at semester in residence looks like. So, I do have to admit, this graphic is a little out of date, and it will change a little bit every year in terms of the specifics of when each class is going to be. But in general, it's fair that you can expect that you, in the morning, come into the City Lab building. A lot of people bus in. It's really accessible by bus from both Ainsleewood and Westdale. Some people bike, some people drove. But you come in the morning, and usually there is class in the morning. So whichever instructor teaches that class will come in. They'll often do a lecture, but sometimes it's also doing activities, discussions, exercises like skill building practice. So let's say for this example week, you'd have project management in the morning, dialogue in the afternoon, city building on Tuesday, design on Wednesday, and Thursday is usually a shared session where in the morning all four of the instructors will come in and be there at the same time and place, which is really nice. As we mentioned before, these classes, as much as they're distinct, are also always weaving in and out of each other. So it's a great time to have access to all the instructors at the same time. And then city building on Friday. This is when you'll have your guest lecture or explore the city. But you'll see here in the afternoons, after lunch, there's often this project slash work session. And this will change, what it looks like will change throughout the semester as the workload changes, as different projects are kind of coming in and out. But this is often time for you to meet up with your project group and work on your project. And that can look like so many different things. Often, you'll have recurring meetings with your city staff partner or community partner. You'll meet with them to ask questions and update them with how the project's been going so far. Um, and a typical week looks different every week at CityLAB, so it's hard to sum up. But in general, that is the format that you'd be following um, in the week of the life at semester in residence. Yeah, so lots of project work, lectures, interactive discussions, etc.
And do know you have an hour for lunch every day in the middle of it. So the marking scheme, we thought we'd go over this a little bit. It's a little confusing, right? So it's 15 units. Um, that's what CityLab semester in residence is worth. And the marking scheme you've got in front of you right now, it should add up to 100%. So it's 15 units spread across, in your timetable, a 6-unit course plus a 9-unit course. But at the end of the day, you get 1 mark across all 15 units, and it's assessed via this marking scheme on your screens right now. So the first one, attendance, professionalism, engagement, worth 20%. Attendance, that means, showing up at 9:30 by 9:30 every morning at the CityLAB building at 58 Jackson Street West. Indigo mentions very accessible by public transit. I'd say the vast majority of students at CityLAB Hamilton semester in residence took the bus to class. Sometimes I biked from campus area because there's a lot of protected bike lanes on the route from campus to the building. Professionalism, so just the way in which you conduct yourself. Are you on time for meetings? If you miss a meeting, do you send an email ahead of time, just letting your professors know that maybe your instructors know that you can't make it? And engagement means, not only are you showing up, but you're also demonstrating an active interest in the course material. You're demonstrating that you care about the projects that you're working on and the variety of assignments that you'll be submitting throughout the semester in residence. So then there's the project management assignments, which are group marks here for the majority of them, except navigating the city down there at the bottom. So those are worth 20%. It's basically the different stages as you move towards your final product. Your project agreement, which is going to be the agreement between your team and the municipal staff that you'll be working with. For example, progress presentation, you're making a presentation updating the class about how your large-scale project is going. Dialogue assignments are 15%, so that's 2 reflections, as well as a dry run for the dialogue event. Design assignments are 15%, so there's an individual assignment here and 2 group assignments. So just throughout that class, you'll be providing those 3 deliverables worth 15%. And then finally, the largest section here, total 30%, it is the large project, the group project as a whole. So the delivery of your dialogue event is worth 5%. So that's actually doing your dialogue event, assessing how you facilitate it with your guests, how welcoming you were, how prepared you were. 15% goes to the final project delivery. So Indigo and I worked on the same team. This 15% was assessed on the final report that we produced. Passion project, 5%, and then your final reflection is worth 5%. And I do want to point out the passion project. What is that exactly? Passion project is essentially a project you get to work on individually for a large portion of your time in CityLAB. So it can be anything that you care about, as long as it's approved by the CityLAB instructors. You get to work on that and present it sometime, usually in November, if I recall correctly. So for example, I wrote a historical opinion piece on the state of intercity rail transit in Hamilton. Very specific. Indigo, what did you do?
I challenged myself to do some creative writing, so I ended up writing a bunch of little short stories, and I ended up binding them into a little book and sharing them with the class at the end of the semester. You can see the range there of things.
Yeah, Indigo's project was very impressive. She essentially made a series of books. Uh, and so yeah, so that's the marking scheme. Of course, it might change around a bit in the fall, but it should largely remain similar to what you have in front of you right now. So the next slide, who is the semester in residence for? So it is for anybody entering level 3 or above in the 2025-26 academic year at the undergraduate level. So this is an undergraduate semester in residence. It's not open to master's students, but it's also not open to students heading into second year. Students in any and all faculties are welcome and encouraged to apply. So we had people from the Faculty of Science, we had engineers, we had people from the Department of Communication, we had arts and science students, we had health science students, we had life science students. It really is open to anybody at McMaster University to apply for. There is no minimum GPA requirement, but it could be taken into consideration if a choice has to be made between two different applications. If you want to make positive change, have a tangible impact, if you really want to leave your mark on the city of Hamilton, if you want to work for positive change and improving our urban and natural environment here in Hamilton, this is definitely a program for you. If you want to improve your communication, your teamwork skills, your public speaking skills, if you want to join a tight-knit community, if all of these things sound appealing to you, the semester in residence is a golden opportunity. So what does the application process looks like? You do have to write a statement of interest. The application is due on May 20th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So you do have to write approximately a 500-word statement. Why are you interested in participating in the program? Please tell us about the skills, for example, you hope to get. What do you think you can contribute to the program yourself? And what do you think you'll take away from this program? So these are all things that, we want to see why you're interested. We want to see why you'd be a good fit in the semester in residence. We want to see how you think you might be able to contribute. Tip, we added this to the presentation, take into consideration the principles of community engagement. If you have a look on the internet, on McMaster's website perhaps, there will be some information on the principles of community engagement, and you could try to think about those a little bit while you are building your application. Point number 2, you do need to submit a current CV. There's no experiential requirements to be a student at the semester in residence, but sometimes your CV might have something that makes you stand out that you weren't able to build into your statement of interest. So we do like seeing those. And then we do also request an unofficial transcript for the reason I mentioned earlier. GPA may be a factor in the consideration of different applications.
All right, so applications are due in 4 days on May 20th at midnight. There is a possibility that this may be extended, but your best bet is to get it in by that date for sure. And generally, we accept about 30 students into CityLAB. That's one of the incredible things about the program is that cohort is so small, so you form really great and tight relationships. You don't have to worry. There's no interview process. It's just the written application. And we'll send out details within a few weeks after the application, so you'll hear back relatively soon. This is a long link to remember. So I recommend if you want some more information, you want to check out more of the frequently asked questions, the best bet is to go to the website. The easiest way to get there is just to type in CityLAB and McMaster into Google, and the first link that comes up should have tons of information about the program and also the link of how to apply. So this is the last thing we need to talk about before we move on to talking about some of the more student experience type things. Is what are the past projects like? What are the projects like that you might be working on if you do CityLAB? And the thing is, and this might come as a surprise to some of you, but I can't tell you exactly what the projects will be for this semester because we don't actually know what they are yet. But I can tell you about what past projects have looked like, and also assure you that there's a variety of projects that are worked on every year at CityLAB, semester in residence, and there will be something for everyone. Um, I know some people go in looking for a specific thing, but at least I found in our cohort, um, the projects were diverse enough that everyone was able to find something that they were interested in and that they could bring their own skill set to. And there's lots of diversity in terms of what there is to work on. So in our cohort, I mean, we're going to talk to you about our project, which is the Open Streets project, a little more. Some of the other projects included placemaking at Pier 8. So there's a really incredible public space, public park down by the waterfront. I'm not sure if any of you have been to Pier 8. But one of the groups of students was working with the placemaking team at the City of Hamilton to try to get more people into that park. What does it mean to activate that space, make it a place? That involved for them working with a local artist to make signage, was a really cool project. Another one for people who might be more into geography, there was a project that was working on trying to integrate and teach the City of Hamilton staff how to use ArcGIS, specifically the story maps. For those of you who don't know what that is, don't worry about it. But it's basically like a data mapping tool. So they worked on running a workshop for City of Hamilton staff. There was lots of other ones as well. You can check out a list of past product projects on the website, see what has been done, what the focus is. I will say the projects tend to be aligned with the City of Hamilton Council priorities. So the things that the City of Hamilton is working on. Um, but it can also be community partners. Like I know the one that you see on the screen, protecting tenants from extreme heat, if I'm correct. I believe that one was a project that was worked on with a local community partner rather than a City of Hamilton staff partner. So I want to save plenty of time for our questions at the end. So I think we'll move on. If people have specific questions about the projects, I'm happy to answer more with the questions. But we're going to move on to having a little discussion. So before we answer questions from the chat, we had a few that were given in advance, but I also just want to give a chance for me and David and our other alumni Oyin to give you a sense of who we are. I'm just going to stop the recording here.